We kept the floor crowded as much as we could. They're a big-time one-on-one team. Just guard your yard. Guard that dude in front of you. And, sometimes they make tough shots. And that's why they got a really good team. So we feel very fortunate, us getting to the line 29 times. I know a few of those were down the stretch when they were fouling at the end. But we thought with their aggressiveness and how often they foul, if we were strong with the ball, we'd have opportunities to get to the line. So,
how did your guys force so many turnovers?
Positioning, I think, for the most part. NC State's used to playing quick. We talked about that a lot with our team. They play quick in the shot clock. They don't necessarily reverse the ball side to side. So if we could have the position off the ball and present a crowded floor and be tight in our gaps and do what we do, we felt like there could be some turnovers that quite honestly are more unforced than forced simply because of our positioning. So that's not how we're built. We're not built to turn teams over. We're trying to keep the ball in front of us, which is a huge challenge when you play a team with the guys that they have. And, they're down a man, and he's probably the best on their team at getting in the lane. So we were very fortunate that we played a little bit of an undermanned team tonight. And then Torn Dorn at the 4 is, he's a tornado getting to the rim. Big challenge.
With Dwayne Sutton in foul trouble and with Jordan Ward not having the typical night that he normally does, how'd you feel about your team, the way they answered the bell every single time, even though NC State hit a ton of threes, the resiliency of your team?
Yeah, probably have a few answers. I'd start with Jordan and say that I was, without watching the film, especially in the second half, really pleased that he didn't let his offensive, maybe a down night for him, affect his intensity and his locked and being locked in on the defensive end. It didn't affect him, which was huge for our team. I don't know if he'd have been that mature 2 months ago, but that's what it takes to win sometimes. You see a lot of articles, I'm not saying that you people write them, that talks about us being a one-man show at times. And, he goes 0 for 7, 3 for 12, which is for him more the exception than the rule. And for us to do that and still win the game against the top 25 team says a lot about the other guys on our team that stepped up tonight. Dwayne was tough because I felt like he never really got going. He did have a huge steal from behind. He did a great job of playing with 3 fouls. We opted to sit him out early in the second half, not start him. And we were going to go another 4 minutes, but, by then, what are you saving him for? He's probably going to feel like he's never a part of the game. So we got him in around 16 minutes in the second half. And I don't think he had a great night, but he won't be down in the mouth in the locker room, I can tell you that.
Coach, besides the fact that they made a few tough shots, what did they do that made it so difficult to defend the three-point line?
Well, you have to cover their pick and roll. And they run it every time down the floor. They put 2 guys in the far corners. You saw the game. They put what I call a paired side opposite the ball. 5-man sets the ball screen, and they roll right down the lane. And whoever you help in on, they have more size than we do outside of Beverly. So they're looking over our guards, and whoever you pinch in to help on the roll, they're going to hit. And if you level hedge it or you don't extend your 5-man too often, then they play downhill. And they get in the lane and they draw fouls and they play drive-kick basketball. So we opt to push the ball as far as we can away from the basket so that our 3 zoned-up defenders have more airtime to cover whatever look happens. But when you spread the floor with 4 players that are terrific offensive players, it's hard. It's hard. But we did it well enough. And then at the end, we actually put our 5-man, I think, on their 3 or 4, and they kept on setting it with their 5, and we just switched and never felt like we had a foot speed mismatch.
Chris, you mentioned the turnovers over here. The turnovers are not always something that have been high for you, but with this team, especially in ACC play, they have picked up quite a bit. Is that a product of your guys feeling more comfortable in the pack line, or why do you think that they have started turning people over so much?
I don't think it's a pack line. I think that I never should have said we were a pack line team. It's like taking this life of its own. It's man-to-man defense. I think our guys are playing aggressive. On the ball, we're doing a much better job of chesting the ball handler when he's driving down the lane. We're not perfect. It's not like we have, 6'7" elite athletic defenders. I mean, Quan, CC, Ryan, Darius are small guys, but they're doing a really good job, and our 3s and 4s are doing a good job. Our 5s are athletic enough to hedge on screens. But I do think that individually we've stepped up guarding the ball better. And sometimes when teams are over-aggressive, they make more mistakes than, quite honestly, we force. But I couldn't tell you.
Coach, it seemed like you had a decent size advantage at times in the paint, but it seemed like State did a good job of keeping you guys from throwing directly into the paint. Was there something that they were doing to kind of discourage the throws into the paint?
We tried. I mean, we were throwing it in there. We made that run at the end of the first half. I mean, we were trying to feed Enoch. They had Helms at the 4, and he's at the 5, and because their 2 5-men had 2 fouls. And we want to beat that thing in there. But you have to understand, like, they're extending so hard. They're pressuring that, it's like that quarterback who drops back. The receiver's open down the field. Problem is, you got 3 defensive tackles in your nose. And that's how we felt a little bit. But when we got it down there, for the most part, Steven was converting. We tried to do it in the second half. And, Steven's got to catch it a little deeper. That's not Malik's strength right now. But, we had enough balance, and we did what we could to try to get the ball in there. Give State credit for pressuring.
What is your typical goal for points off turnovers, and why were you so effective tonight?
42. No, I have no idea. I don't have a goal. I don't have a goal. We missed it by 5. There's enough statistics that I have to worry about. That's not one of them.
I didn't see Quan's numbers back here, but it seemed like they put a lot of pressure on your point guard no matter what, and he was a guy that was there, to kind of also assist with that quite a bit. What was his night like in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, Quan's that guy. He's a jack of all trades. He'll do whatever the team asks. Made some big time plays. He guards the other team's best perimeter threat a lot of times. For a while in the second half, State just went to full court man-to-man pressure, and just because CC's our point guard. That doesn't mean everybody else gets to be let off the hook. Sorry, buddy, you have to dribble it up against pressure the entire second half. So, we have 2 options when the team is pressuring us like that in terms of our 1 and 2 getting open. We throw it into them, and if they're not in a zone press or run and jump, whoever catches the ball just clears everybody out. And that was a way for us to keep CC from really getting worn out with their full court pressure, and it didn't affect what we were running on the other end.
Chris, Ryan hit those 2 free throws that were big, but right before that, he drew the charge. I think it was still a 4-point game. About that and how he's come along on that end of the floor.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we've been working really hard to, be there for our buddy. You can't always keep the ball in front of you. They got good players. They give out scholarships. And, we've done a lot of charge drills in practice. And it was great to see Ryan have the presence of mind and the ability and the toughness to step over and take a charge in what it really was a critical, game-ending type play. I mean, we still had to make free throws and do what we needed to do, but, he made a big-time play on the defensive end. He's grown immensely.
Take 2 more. Johnson was out 2 games. They had 9 turnovers in one, 7 in the other. Did you see something you were able to exploit as far as the positioning? And second question, you vowed early in the year you wouldn't get another technical foul.
I didn't.
Came pretty close to that.
I didn't. Come on, Tim. Fake news, man. Fake news. I would tell you that we felt like State plays very, very quickly into the shot clock in the half court. And so I don't know if it led to their turnovers, but our whole thing was come down, that initial ball screen happens. They're trying to strike off of it. And it may not be because you squeezed in and they got a shot off it. Just a simple throwback to the man sort of replacing behind that ball screen. He just goes one-on-one. And we talked a lot about going 1 versus 3. Whoever had the ball, it's a big challenge. Keep it in front of you. And whoever was to your left or to your right, try to really get as tight as you can without giving up a drive kick to your own man. And just, sometimes when a floor is crowded and sticky, it hurts the other team. And NC State doesn't practice that way. You know, you got to understand that, like, we all practice against ourselves every day. So we see nothing but pack line. We don't see a lot of pressure. You know, we don't see a lot of pressure defense. NC State, conversely, pressures all the time in practice. I'm sure they're denying everywhere. And so when a ball screen happens, the floor is a lot more open for them in their practice. And it just sort of builds habits. And you can put non-scholarship, scout guys, walk-ons in there, but, you know, that's not going to simulate, you know, the athleticism and the size that they present when they're pressuring or when we're in our pack line.
You mentioned that you guys got beat pretty badly on the offensive glass, yet I think they only had like 7 second chance points. Why is that? And are there times where you kind of have to make a decision between, you know, going for the rebound or getting back on defense to stop them in transition?
No. They're shooting the ball, so they're getting the offensive rebound. So we'd be going the other way with it. But I would tell you that the reason that they didn't convert a lot of them, I thought a lot of them were 50-50 balls that weren't right next to the basket. I mean, I think Walker got one. But, you know, our guards have to join the party. They have to block out. Most teams don't send their 2 guard to the offensive glass. NC State sends 4 guys, which conversely, if we can get the rebound, we can get up the floor and find ourselves in, you know, great advantages in transition, which we did. But we had to do a better job of getting those 50-50 balls, the longer rebounds, and that's probably why they didn't convert them necessarily into points.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Being here short, and then we'll have a couple.